This is the story of a man who called himself BTK, bind, torture, kill. He murdered 10 people over 3 decades, and for all of those years, he lived as one of the most trusted men in his community. He was a church president, a Boy Scout leader, a city compliance officer who knocked on his neighbors' doors to measure their grass. Nobody suspected him. Not once. Not for 31 years. His name was Dennis Rader, Wichita, Kansas. January 15th, 1974. The Otero family, Joseph, Julie, and 2 of their children, 9-year-old Joey and 11-year-old Josie, were found dead in their home. All 4 had been bound. All 4 had been strangled. Joseph and Julie were found in their bedroom. Joey was found in his bedroom with a bag over his head. Josie was found hanging from a pipe in the basement. This wasn't a robbery. Nothing of value was taken. The killer hadn't known the family. He'd simply chosen them, watched their house, learned their routine, and on that January morning, he walked in through the back door while the older children were at school, and he did what he'd been fantasizing about for years. The police had no leads, no DNA technology, no witnesses. The case went cold within weeks. Then the letters started. 10 months after the Otero murders, a phone call came in to the Wichita Eagle newspaper. The caller directed them to a letter hidden inside an engineering textbook in the Wichita Public Library. The letter was written in block print. It described the Otero murders in detail only the killer could know. It signed off with 3 letters: BTK, bind, torture, kill. He wasn't writing because he wanted to be stopped. He was writing because he wanted credit. Over the next few years, BTK killed 3 more women: Catherine Bright in 1974, Shirley Vian in 1977, Nancy Fox in 1977. Each time the pattern was the same. He watched them, he learned their schedules, he broke in, he bound them, and he strangled them. After killing Nancy Fox, he called the police himself from a payphone and reported the murder as casually as someone calling in a noise complaint. And then, he went quiet. For years, no letters, no murders, no communication at all. The police task force was disbanded. Wichita started to forget. People assumed BTK was dead, or in prison for something else, or had simply moved away. But Dennis Rader hadn't gone anywhere. He was living in Park City, a suburb just north of Wichita. He'd married a woman named Paula in 1971, 3 years before his first murder. They had 2 children. He worked as an installer for ADT Security. The irony of that, a serial killer installing home security systems, is the kind of detail that sounds like fiction. But it was his real life. He later became a city compliance officer, the guy who showed up at your door if your lawn was too long or your dog was off its leash. Neighbors described him as annoying, strict, power-hungry over petty rules. But dangerous? Never. Every Sunday, Dennis Rader went to Christ Lutheran Church. He wasn't just a member. He was the president of the church council. He set up events. He led meetings. He greeted families at the door. He taught Sunday school. And on nights that no one was watching, he would drive to a woman's house, sit in the dark outside her window, and fantasize about killing her. The murders didn't actually stop during those quiet years. In 1985, he killed Maureen Hedge, a 53-year-old woman who lived on his own street. He strangled her in her bedroom, then put her body in the trunk of her own car and drove it to his church, where he posed and photographed the body before dumping it in a ditch. He killed Vicki Wegerle in 1986. He killed Dolores Davis in 1991. 3 more victims, no letters, no public taunting. The police didn't even connect these cases to BTK. Dennis Rader was killing people and going home to eat dinner with his wife and kids. He was attending PTA meetings. He was collecting offering plates on Sunday mornings. He was coaching his son's Boy Scout troop. And all the while, he kept trophies from his victims: jewelry, underwear, driver's licenses, hidden in his house and in a storage unit he rented under his own name. Then came 2004. After 13 years of silence, BTK resurfaced. On March 19th, a letter arrived at the Wichita Eagle. Inside was a photocopy of a driver's license belonging to Vicky Wegerle and 3 photos of her body that had never been seen. BTK was back, and this time he couldn't stop talking. Over the next year, Rader sent 11 packages to police and media outlets: letters, puzzles, word searches, dolls bound with rope. He was playing a game, and he was enjoying every second of it. He wanted the attention he'd gone without for over a decade, but this time, the police were ready. In early 2005, Rader sent a message to a local television station asking a question that would end everything. He asked, "Can police trace a floppy disk?" The station passed the question to the police. The detectives discussed it, and they made a decision that would go down as one of the smartest lies in law enforcement history. They told him no, a floppy disk cannot be traced. It was a lie. On February 16th, 2005, a purple floppy disk arrived at KSAS-TV in Wichita in a padded envelope. On the disk was a single file, a Microsoft Word document from someone calling himself BTK. A forensic analyst opened the file, pulled up the metadata, and found 2 things. The document had been last modified by a user named Dennis, and the file was linked to Christ Lutheran Church. The police searched Dennis and Christ Lutheran Church online and found one name: Dennis Rader, president of the church council. They pulled his daughter's medical records from Kansas State University and tested the DNA against evidence from the BTK crime scenes. It was a familial match. On February 25, 2005, Dennis Rader was pulled over near his home in Park City. He was driving home from work at the city compliance office. When the officers told him he was being arrested as a suspect in the BTK case, Rader reportedly looked at them and asked a single question: "Is that prior to prior knowledge?" Even in the moment of his arrest, he was trying to calculate his way out. There was no way out. At his sentencing hearing in August 2005, Rader stood before the court and described each of his 10 murders in calm, clinical detail. No remorse, no emotion. He referred to his victims as projects. He described the Otero family murder the way someone might describe assembling furniture, step by step, matter of fact, with occasional corrections for accuracy. The judge sentenced him to 10 consecutive life sentences with a minimum of 175 years before the possibility of parole. Kansas had no death penalty at the time of his crimes. Dennis Rader is still alive today, imprisoned at El Dorado Correctional Facility in Kansas. He would be eligible for parole in 2180. He'll be 235 years old. His wife Paula filed for an emergency divorce the day after his arrest. It was granted within hours, the fastest divorce in Kansas state history. His children have both changed their last names. His daughter, Carrie, later wrote a book about growing up in the house of a serial killer without knowing it. What makes the BTK case so terrifying isn't just the murders, it's the duration. 31 years. That's an entire generation. Dennis Rader killed his first victim before some of his coworkers were born. He sat in church pews and shook hands and ate potluck dinners and coached children and installed security systems in the homes of people he could have chosen to kill. And in the end, the most sophisticated forensic technology in the world didn't catch him. A lie did. He asked a question, trusted the answer, and sealed his own fate with a 3.5-inch floppy disk. Dennis Rader wasn't caught because the system worked. He was caught because his ego was bigger than his caution. He needed to be known. He needed the game. And the game is what destroyed him. If cases like this keep you up at night, subscribe to Crime Revealed, because the darkest stories are the ones no one sees coming.